What up, Theo?
We love to say boom shakalaka. What's up, Peter?
That's a reference to NBA Jam from like the early 90s. But anyway,
I wasn't there. I wouldn't know.
I know, you weren't even alive. Can you teach us one cool South African slang before we jump in? What's a word that we should all
Okay,
know?
so it's gonna be a phrase, and this is great for an introduction. You're gonna say to somebody, that you know pretty well. Maybe you don't. You say "Awe my bro,"
Away, my brew.
"Awe,"
Away.
"Awe my bro." So like,
Away, my brew.
I might start sounding a bit different right now. Okay, so "Awe" is like, uh, it's just like a very different way of saying hello. It's a very much like a hood lingo from where I
What
come
up,
from.
bro?
Like "Awe my bro."
Away, my brew.
Yeah. But they're like really, like if you went to the hood and people were just way more goofy, like they kind of like they maybe shoot themselves on accident instead, and like just kind of like you know what I mean.
I don't know what you mean, but okay.
You
I'm with you.
if anybody would like the way they talk, and everything, like they're like an innocent group of hood rats. Oh, my bro, how's it going today, my friend? Ow, ouch, ow. You know what I mean? My cunt just went off in my pants.
brew.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Uh,
that now. Sorry. What are we talking about this week? We're starting a new series.
Yeah, so I've heard.
We're starting a new series called To the Ends. And what are we talking about?
So, to start off the series, we want to talk about the lengths that Jesus goes through to find each of us, to bring each of us home.
Yeah.
And
It seems to be like a repetitive thing we find in the Bible, examples that Jesus gives of a character, either a father or a woman or whatever, that's searching for something that's lost and trying to find it, right?
yeah, and so we're going to be talking about going to the ends, and a part of going to the ends was Jesus calling us to go to the ends, to spread the good news and to help him in the mission of bringing everyone home. But first, we're going to talk about how he exemplifies that and what he talks about that is.
Oh, where's my brew?
So, sometimes it sounds it's kind of rough. It sounds like a storm. Sometimes it's just like that.
Okay, so we're talking about reaching the end, going to the ends, right?
Yeah.
Spreading
Yeah.
the invitation to be reconciled with God, to be found, that God has come to rescue us, right? And you just kind of shared that there's all these different examples of God looking for, trying to find the lost, right? Or Jesus sharing parables, stories, illustrations of the lost being found and how valuable the lost are to the person who finds the lost.
Yeah.
So how does that
Yeah.
how do we connect those two together? Why is that important when it comes to this series on sharing, good news, sharing about God with people?
Yeah, so a few things come to mind. One thing I think of is that in order for us to find, we have to be found. And I think it's so important for us to be reminded of that first, and to remember, how did I even come to be found by Jesus, and why would I go to help him in that same mission?
Yeah. Would you be willing to share that for yourself? Like I've heard bits and pieces of your story before, and I think it's really powerful. Could you maybe share some of that with us?
Yeah, so I supposedly started off found,
Supposedly.
well, I say that because it didn't feel that way. But I grew up in the church and everything, but I never understood everything very well, and especially not the personal relationship with Jesus, which that is really where I feel like that's really what I feel like being found is most tangible to, is that relationship with him where you just feel at home. And so, my life goes on in South Africa. And eventually we moved to America, and we find Gateway early on, but I just never was into it. And, my parents kind of forced me to go to some things until I eventually, in high school, just kind of was like, you know what, guys, I don't believe in this thing you believe in. And I think I'm just not going to go with anymore. And then fast forward to college, I just find myself in a relationship that was starting pretty quickly. It was great at first, but then it started to bring me a lot of pain. And it wasn't necessarily their actions, but just the feelings and emotions and seeing the world for the first time. I feel like I was kind of sheltered growing up, and then just seeing true pain and unfairness all around me. You hear the news growing up and everything, but seeing it and being in it for the first time, I started to become I started to get to a place of a lot of pain. And the only people I really knew to open up to were my parents. That is one thing in my life that I feel like I was extremely blessed with. All through my life, they have been there, and they understood the Good Shepherd. They always understood that so well, and they were patient, and they were praying for me. And so I finally opened up to my dad when I was feeling the weight of all this pain, and he was there for me, and he prayed for me, and he asked me if he could pray for me just in that moment. And when he did, with all the tears and everything, for the first time in my life, I felt God's peace. Like, I felt the most peace I'd ever felt in my life in that moment. And that was really what sparked my journey to go explore who God is and what it's about.
That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that, man. Now, you mentioned the heart of a good shepherd. What exactly are you talking about with that?
Yeah, so Jesus has this story in Matthew 18 that he shares. Some Pharisees are kind of upset with him, and he begins to share about what the kingdom of heaven is like. He's got a lot of parables, and in this one specifically, he talks about a good shepherd, like literally a shepherd who has sheep that he's taking care of. And he says, this shepherd, if you had 100 sheep and one of them just went astray and got lost, wouldn't you go looking for the shepherd, or looking for the sheep, no matter where it was? And when you found it, you would be so glad. You would rejoice, and you would tell your friends about it, and be so happy. And that is what God is like with us, and how we may have been in the flock, but then we run off, and he will go through difficulties to come and find you. And when he finds you, he will be so glad that he found you.
That's awesome. I think sometimes, not coming from that shepherd culture, it's hard for me to fully grasp that illustration, because I hear 100 sheep and one sheep is lost. Why would you leave 99 perfectly happy, healthy sheep that you have to go find that one lost one? That doesn't sound very smart. But the heart of a shepherd with his flock is like a dad and children. They know every single sheep. They might give each sheep a name. They have stories of carrying sheep through the mountains, and resting with them in the valleys, and caring for each of them, and cleaning them, and everything. And so if one of them went missing, that would that they would notice, and they'd know what to look for.
That reminds me of a story. I don't know who shared the story, but I think it was a pastor who was a dad who had kids, and they went to a theme park like Six Flags. And he's got probably 4 or 5 kids, notably an oldest son and a youngest daughter, like a little girl. And by the end of the day, they get back to the car and they realize like their youngest daughter is gone,
Oh boy.
and they like go searching, and they search and like they can't find her, and the oldest son is like, well, dad, these you've still got four of them, you know.
That's not what you tell a dad of
Right.
children. Oh, you still have the rest of us.
Right. But I
Unless
think
it was a really annoying sibling, and then maybe it would be a funny remark. But
yeah.
seriously.
Yeah, but when I heard that, that explained it to me really well to understand like, okay, that makes a lot more sense. Like for us, sheep are like, I've eaten sheep, you know, but like when you're a dad and this is your daughter, like you don't care that you've got four other ones. Like this is important.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that really does a good job of illustrating kind of what you're talking about, in terms of having the heart of a good shepherd when it comes to reaching others. It's like if we see each other as children of God and see ourselves as a child of God, then why wouldn't our heart break knowing that there's children that are lost that the Father's trying to reach? And
Yeah.
that we could be part of that effort.
And knowing that those are our siblings.
They're our siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, man. Well, hi, hiya, brew.
Away.
Away.
Away, my bro.
Away, my brew. Thank you,
Yeah.
brother. That was good times. Good conversation. Thanks for sharing your story with us. And join us next week for another episode of the Gateway Students Podcast.